Anshul Jubli opened the door for Indian MMA fighters to compete at the highest level, but I think what we're all wondering now is who's next? Indian MMA has never been better, and there's a lot of fighters out there who are either right at that elite level, or maybe they're just a few fights away, or they've just got a few fights under their belt but are showing a lot of promise. I know that in a couple years, the UFC is going to have so many more Indian MMA fighters on the roster, and it's going to be that next big frontier for the UFC to tap into. So if we're talking about who the best Indian MMA fighters are right now, you really have to look at Matrix Fight Night, because that's where most of these fighters are fighting right now. And a lot of these fighters are probably going to be content to stay there for a little while, if I'm honest, because of how good the pay structure is with MFN relative to other promotions at the same level. They offer a lot of really good benefits as well, and also the contracts keep them locked in with MFN for a good while. The way things are at MFN right now are probably why you didn't see a whole lot of Indian fighters at Road to UFC in 2023, but I am hearing that there could be some things worked out in the future for there to be more of a pipeline into the UFC of Indian MMA fighters. But whether they're headed to the UFC or go to another promotion or stay in MFN, here's my take on the very best Indian MMA fighters right now. Now, first I'm going to cover a couple guys that I think are early on in their careers, still have some things to work out, but have a lot of promise so far. And for me, the first person I think of is featherweight Rahul Thapa. Rahul is 28 years old and trains out of Warrior Cove MMA in the New Delhi area. Now, he's still got a lot to prove, but he did just recently beat other pretty good prospect Avizo Lanamai at MFN 12. Apart from that, we don't know when his next fight will be, but the scoop on Thapa is that he's a really pretty good wrestler and is one of those guys that just sticks to you like glue. Once he gets you to the ground, if he's able to chain together different takedown attempts, he's going to keep you on the ground, he's going to take your back, he's going to flow from one position to another. He is a really scrappy guy. He also fights out of the southpaw stance and uses his range really well for a guy with just 5 fights. His striking is still coming along, but he's really got a pretty good counter left hook. For him, he's still got a little while before he's going to be fighting for a title or any kind of consideration like Road UFC or UFC. Another guy about in the same area is another prospect I really like, and that's Punyajit Likaru. He fights in the bantamweight division and currently is 4-0. Although he comes from Assam, India, he's currently training at Soma Fight in Bali, Indonesia, like a lot of fighters in this list. After fighting a couple times for MFN, he fought most recently for Island Fighter League in Bali. He is a really great wrestler and totally smashes his opponents on the ground. In his last fight against Gabriel Masankai at Island Fighter League, he turned in one of the most lopsided scorecards with a lot of 30-25s, even 30-24s, and got the unanimous decision. Masankai, extremely tough, but Likaru showed that he was way overmatched and ready for a bigger test. There's no word on which promotion or when Likaru is going to fight for next, but really the door is open for him to go just about anywhere. Now, moving up the list, one guy I really like is Shyam Anand. He is 4-1 and fights in MFN's featherweight division. In fact, he's going to be fighting later this month for the featherweight belt against another fighter on this list. Shyam Anand is a power puncher. He throws his punches fast, hard, and extremely accurate, so much to where he's never gone the full judge's distance. He's on a 4-fight win streak currently right now, and all of those wins are by knockout. He's got pretty good takedown defense, but really what I'm a little concerned about is his conditioning. He always starts off really strong, but sometimes if the fight goes a little bit longer, he can fade just a little bit. So when he fights in a title fight later this month, I'm really interested to see how his conditioning is going to hold up for the entirety of the fight. But he is a massive featherweight and extremely powerful. He trains out of Indian CSA in Bangalore. Really great prospect in Shyam Anand. Now, the guy that he's going to be fighting is next on this list. That's Sanjeet Boudoir. Sanjeet is one of the very best fighters out of India, in my opinion. Goes by the nickname of the Silent Killer. He is the current MFN featherweight champion after winning a 5-round decision over Kyrgyz fighter Abdi Mitalipov. He's also beaten Dhruv Chowdhury, Georgi Stojanovic, and also holds a win over Shyam Anand, and that is Anand's only loss in pro MMA. Sanjeet has 6 wins by TKO or knockout, and his style is really interesting. He's a patient fighter, and interestingly enough, he kind of fights with his hands lower, much lower, down by his waist, but keeps a really big distance between him and his opponents. When he strikes, he is extremely accurate. He's able to snipe his opponents at range and wear them down over the distance. He has really good conditioning, excellent wrestling and takedown defense, and really is the kind of fighter that is well-rounded and able to fight 5-round title fights. His fight against Shyam Anand at MFN 13 is a fight between 2 of the very best Indian prospects on the globe right now. Now, one fighter that just burst onto the map recently was the mountain boy, 7-2 flyweight Govind Ali Singh. Govind hadn't fought since 2019 and recently returned at Indonesian promotion One Pride MMA, where he took on Road to UFC alum Rama Supandi. No one really knew what to expect from Govind in this fight, but he showed a lot of strength, some really good takedown defense, some good 1-2s at range, and was able to finish Supandi with some grounded knees and hammer fists after Supandi went for a takedown. It was a terrifying finish and really put him on a lot of fans' radar. He trains out of Koi Combat Academy in Bangalore, and he's going to be fighting the next fighter on this list also at MFN 13 at the end of October. That fighter is 5-0 Clinton De Cruz, the Corgi boy, who also fights at flyweight. Clinton trains out of Indian CSA or Indian Combat Sports Academy out of Bangalore, and 4 of his wins are by submission, telling you that he's a great submission fighter. He recently won his last fight by Darce choke. Despite being inexperienced, he's shown a lot of really good scrambles and a very intelligent grappling game. Not only are his subs great, but he also has a really nice 1-2 combination and very masterfully uses his jab. If he can get past Govind Ali later this month at MFN 13, I think he's probably next in line for a flyweight title shot in MFN. Speaking of flyweight, that brings us to MFN's flyweight champion, Angad Bisht, who trains out of Dehradun, Uttarakhand, India. He actually runs his own gym, Mutant MMA, in his hometown. He holds a 9-3 record and is 28 years old. Angad was supposed to defend his title last July, but he had an illness and had to pull out of that fight. There's no word on when he'll be scheduled to make his first title defense at MFN. He is a really stocky, muscular flyweight and has finished 6 of his 9 wins. He's a really patient fighter. He's got a good overhand right, but what really stands out about Angad Bisht is his grappling. He might just be the best grappler in Indian MMA right now. Whenever the fight hits the ground, which he also has really good wrestling, a lot of tools to be able to get the fight to the ground, his grappling really shines. His transitions, his top control, he just seems like he's in a world above all of his opponents. His last fight, he was able to submit his opponent with a standing rear naked choke. After his last fight, he fought a very dangerous striker in Muhammad Gamal for the flyweight belt, and after taking a little bit too much damage, he was able to wear on into the 3rd round and take the back of his opponent and submit him with a standing rear naked choke. It was a really impressive finish. But one guy that we haven't really heard from for a while is featherweight Jackie Galat. Jackie is one of the most dangerous guys in Indian MMA. He holds a 4-1 record, which doesn't necessarily stand out until you see who he's beat. His last 2 wins were decision wins over 2 current MFN champions in Angad Bisht and Sanjeet Budwar. He basically snipes his opponents with a big overhand right, and with his wrestling, he absolutely ragdolls his opponents, like he did to Sanjeet and Angad. He hasn't fought since 2019, and he was supposed to return this summer against Dhruv Chowdhury at MFN, but he had to pull out of that fight as well because of injury, so there's no word on when Jackie will be back. But for sure, when he does return, he's going to have some big rematches ahead of him because the divisions like featherweight have moved on, and now Sanjeet is the champion. So if he can maybe get a win under his belt in his return, for sure they're going to set up the rematch against Sanjeet Boudoir. Now there's two women on this list. The first is MFN strawweight champion Pooja Tomar. Pooja has an 8-4 record, which doesn't look super flashy, again, until you see where she fought and who she fought against. She fought in one championship for a while and fought some of the women's division's toughest fighters. Her nickname is the Cyclone, and she absolutely fights that way. She is so good with her blitzes, throwing combinations, especially her kicks, throwing low, throwing these effortless head kicks, and has finished her last 3 fights in MFN. When she fought in one championship, she fought fighters like Stamp Fairtex, Jean Radzuan, and Tiffany Teo. So definitely no shame in losing to those women, especially at the beginning of her career like she was. Then she moved to MFN, and she has been in an absolute tear ever since. She trains out of Bali, Indonesia's Soma Fight Club as well, which is where a lot of the best Indian fighters currently train out of. She recently defended her title against Anastasia Feofanova and currently doesn't have a fight booked with MFN and is currently awaiting her next challenge. Which brings us to perhaps the most famous fighter on this whole list, one of the very best Indian fighters to ever fight in MMA, Ritu Phogat. Now, we all know Ritu from one championship. She's fought exclusively 4-1 and amassed a 7-3 record there. Of course, Indian MMA fans know all about her family's history. She comes from a very famous and beloved family of wrestlers in India who have been the subject of a very popular, very well-made movie. And in one championship's atomweight division, she's fought many of the very best of the division. She's fought Stamp Fairtex, Tiffany Teo, Lin Hachin, Meng Buo, really a lot of the best fighters that one has, and she hasn't even turned 30 years old yet. She fought her way to the finals of the one atomweight Grand Prix, fighting Stamp Fairtex, where she would have gotten a shot at the atomweight belt had she had beaten Stamp Fairtex. However, Stamp submitted her, and then she fought Tiffany Teo after that and lost by submission then as well. Some time has passed since then, and it's a big mystery where Ritu is going to fight next. At one point, she had come out saying that she had signed with Indian promotion Kumite 1 League, and then one championship came out and shot that down, saying that she was still under contract with them. And since then, we have no idea where Ritu is going to fight next. She has also moved over to Soma Fight Club to train alongside her Indian teammates. So hopefully she can work things out with one championship and either get a fight with them or be released from the promotion so she can continue her career. But all of us are just hoping we get to see her fight soon. Now, there's a lot more fighters I could have included on this list. A lot of fighters that are in that like 3 to 5 fights range. And I know this list was very limited. So let me know if there's any fighters I left out or any that I may not even know about that you think I should check out. Leave those down in the comments below. But if you enjoyed this video, subscribe to the channel. Really helps me out a lot. Would appreciate that greatly. And until next time, enjoy the fights, guys.